Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 32. We are on text 25. Satadai Vatmanatmanam Nisangam Samadarshanam Eyopadeya Rahitam Arudam Padam Ikshate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because of his transcendental intelligence, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision and sees himself to be uncontaminated by matter. He does not see anything as superior or inferior, and he feels himself elevated to the transcendental platform of being equal in qualities with the Supreme Person. So we can see here that the pure devotee is on the liberated platform. He is completely understood he's not the body. He's completely understood he's the spirit soul, that he is Satchid Ananda. God is Satchid Ananda, the pure devotee. He also realizes himself to be Satchid Ananda. He stops identifying himself with his false ego, and he's situated in the transcendental position. Perception of the disagreeable arises from attachment. A devotee
Sorry,
has
I
no
just have a question. Uncontaminated by matter. What does that mean here?
He stops seeing himself as the body.
Okay, uncontaminated by matter means. Okay.
Yeah, he stops seeing himself as
He
the
sees
body.
himself as a soul, right?
Yeah. He's
Okay,
completely
thank you.
understood that he's the soul. He's
Okay.
completely understood he's Satchidananda, that his qualities are same as God, equal in qualities with the Supreme Person. He's completely understood that he's not God, but he's part and parcel of God. So a devotee has no personal attachment to anything. Therefore, for him, there is no question of agreeable or disagreeable. The pure devotee, so because he stops seeing himself as the body, it's our mind, our mind says, oh, this is a good position for me. I will enjoy in this position. And this position is bad. And I will be unhappy in this position. But the pure devotee, he has no such attachment or detachment. For the service of the Lord, he can accept anything, even though it may be disagreeable to his personal interest. In fact, he is completely free from personal interest, and thus anything agreeable to the Lord is agreeable to him. I think we did this, no? So anyway, we continue reading. So the pure devotee, for example, Arjuna, he didn't want to fight. He thought that if I fight, I have to kill my family members. Now, no one wants to do that. So it was a very, his mind was very disturbed. I'm sorry. But when he understood that Krishna wants this fight to happen, then he fought. So that is the position of a pure devotee. For his personal interest, there is nothing which is agreeable or disagreeable. Everything is done for the Lord. And therefore, he's free from attachment and detachment. So the pure devotee, he doesn't say, oh, I am detached. I want detachment. No. He is not concerned with attachment or detachment. He is simply concerned with pleasing the Supreme Lord. I want to serve the Supreme Lord for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That's it. So he doesn't consider that, oh, this is a good situation for me or this is a bad situation for me. He doesn't even want detachment. What he wants is attachment to Krishna. That is the transcendental stage of neutrality. A pure devotee enjoys life in the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So when we get attached to God, that is a transcendental position. That is when we can truly enjoy. You see, material life means we want to enjoy without Krishna, without God. That is material life. But our true enjoyment is only when we can again connect back to Krishna, when we revive our relationship with Krishna. So pure devotee has completely understood it. So he's completely enjoying his life, like a small child. Small child, he's very happy when he is with his parents. There's no anxiety, no nothing. He knows my father is there, he's taking care of me. That is the pure position of the pure devotee. He's completely understood. I'm not God. God is God, and I have my loving relationship with him. Is that okay? So 26, Jnana
This
Matram
one, that
Param.
he's free from attachment and detachment both,
Yes.
right? So here, can we have some example or something for like that the pure
Attachment.
devotee has no attachment and he's not detached
So,
also?
for example, Srila Prabhupada,
Hmm.
he was 69 and he left Vrindavan at that age.
Hmm.
That's the age everyone wants to go to Vrindavan
Hmm.
as a retirement. Oh, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to being in Vrindavan now.
Hmm.
I will cultivate detachment. But Prabhupada, he left Vrindavan at that age. Why? He simply wanted to please his spiritual master.
Hmm.
For him, there was no, he was not attached to staying in Vrindavan,
Hmm.
right? And then neither was he um, detachment. How would you say detachment now?
Then detached is that he had no attachment. He was detached, that okay, it doesn't matter, like, because people have attachment to Vrindavan, but he was able to detach. Does it that mean that detachment means anasakti, right? That he was not attached to it, then automatically it is detachment. No,
Yes, that's right.
is it what I understood? So is it that or
Yes,
something else?
yes, yes. And because Prabhupada is a pure devotee, actually, wherever he is, that is Vrindavan.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he created so many temples and he created Vrindavan atmospheres all over the world. So
Hmm.
that's the mood of the pure devotee. He's not considering any particular uh, thing that this is good for me or this is bad for me. He's just seeing how I can please Krishna. This is what
Okay,
his
thank you.
mood is.
Okay.
Jnanamatram param brahma parme paramatmeshwara puman drishi adi bhi prathak bhaver bhagavan eka. The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete, transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. So Bhagavatam tells us that Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwaneti Shabdayate. That is how the transcendentalists see the absolute truth. Someone's realization of absolute truth is that God is light. Someone's realization of absolute truth is God is Paramatma. But the perfect understanding is that God is Bhagavan. He's a person. So because when we say knowledge, knowledge means a person has the knowledge, right? That is something we have to understand. The light can't speak. Have we ever seen light speaking? No, light doesn't speak. So who's speaking? It's God who's speaking. He is a person. He's not only light. He has this complete knowledge. So he is the person who has the knowledge. The word Drishi, Adibi, is significant. According to Jiva Goswami, Drishi means Gyan, philosophical research. By different processes of philosophical research under different concepts, such as the process of Gyan Yoga, the same Bhagwan or Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood as impersonal Brahman. Similarly, by the Eightfold Yoga system, he appears as the Paramatma. But in pure Krishna consciousness or knowledge and purity, when one tries to understand the absolute truth, one realizes him as the Supreme Person. So if we take the Gyan path, the process of Gyan, we will understand God is light. If we take the process of Ashtanga Yoga, we will realize that God is Paramatma in our heart. Now, but this is all incomplete understanding of God. The complete understanding of God is that God is a person. From his body, from his form, this light is coming out, and he is expanded in this material world as Paramatma. That is complete understanding of absolute truth. And the only way we can have this absolute, complete understanding of absolute truth is by devotional service. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I can be known only by devotional service. So once the more we engage in devotional service, which begins by hearing and chanting, the more we will be able to understand the absolute truth. The transcendence is realized simply on the basis of knowledge. The words used here, Paramatmeshwaraha Puman, are all transcendental, and they refer to Supersoul. Supersoul is also described as Purush, but the word Bhagwan directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full in 6 opulences: wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So God is called Bhagwan. Why? He's called Bhagwan because he has this opulences in full. So when we say that God has opulences, name, fame, for beauty, knowledge, renunciation, means it goes to show he's a person, you know. He has beauty. His form is very beautiful. He has all the knowledge. That's his form, Satchid Ananda. He has all the wealth. He has all the fame. You know, we refer to God as He. That all goes to show that God is a person. He is the personality of Godhead in different spiritual skies. The various descriptions of Paramatma, Ishwar, and Puman indicate that the expansions of the Supreme Godhead are unlimited. Now, Krishna, he expands himself into many, many incarnations or expansions. And they are non-different than him. It's not that they are different gods, that Lord Ramachandra is a different god than Krishna, who's a different god than Lord Nrsimhadev. No, no, God is only one. There are no two gods. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna is the original person, and from him come so many expansions. The Vishnu Tattva, the avatars. So we say, okay, when I'm coming from God, I'm also expansion of God, so even I become God. But we have to see that we are separated expansions. We are very tiny, very minute. We don't have these opulences in full. Our size is very minute. That's why we are called Jivatma. That's why we are not called God. We are part and parcel of God, but not God. Ultimately, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept Bhakti Yoga. By executing Gyan Yoga or Dhyan Yoga, one has to eventually approach the Bhakti Yoga platform. And then Paramatma, Ishvara, Puman, etc. are clearly understood. So no matter we take the Gyan path or the Ashtanga Yoga path, we have to come to Bhakti Yoga to be able to find success. Even in the Gyan Yoga, only in the Gyan path, only if we come to Bhakti can we get the true fulfillment. You know, the Brahmavadi, they understand, I'm not God, I'm part and parcel of God. They are called Brahmavadi. They understand God as light. They also devotees of God because they understand, I'm not God, but I'm part and parcel of God. You know, so they realize that there is a difference between God and me. Of course, they realize that God is light, but at least they have that kind of understanding that I am not God. And even the Ashtanga yogi, he is meditating on who? He's meditating on the Vishnu form. His mind is fixed on the Vishnu form. And so, by doing that, only then he can get the complete understanding of Paramatma. So, one has to approach Bhakti Yoga. No matter where we start at Gyan or we start at Ashtanga, we have to come to Bhakti. It is recommended in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that whether one is a devotee or fruitive actor or liberationist, if he's intelligent enough, he should engage himself with all seriousness in the process of devotional service. So this is what Bhagavatam is saying. Whether we are desiring, we have all the material desires, we have no material desires, or we desire mukti, liberation. Doesn't matter. We only need to engage in devotional service. By engaging in devotional service, all our desires will be fulfilled. Even if we want mukti, we engage in devotional service, we will get mukti. We want to become a devotee, by engaging in devotional service, we will become a devotee. Or we have a lot of material desires. I want this, I want that. Just still approach Krishna. Whatever is our desire, Krishna is the only one who can fulfill all our desires. It is also explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, can be achieved simply by execution of devotional service. So as we just said, well, even if we have material desires, we just simply approach Krishna for the fulfillment of desires. We don't need to approach any other personality, simply Krishna, because he's the one who fulfills our desires. He's the Paramatma in our heart. He knows what's our desire and he makes the arrangement for the desire to be fulfilled. Since the Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, he can bestow any one of them upon the worshipper. So Krishna has everything. He has everything. So for sure he can give us. For sure he is giving us. But now we are saying, no, but I want to become Krishna. And that is what we need to understand, that we cannot become Krishna. We cannot become God. Only Krishna is God, but he's willing to share with us whatever we want. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to different thinkers as the Supreme Person or impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. Impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. If one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of Supreme Lord, he can achieve that. If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service. So if someone wants to merge into the light, into the supreme transcendence, one has to engage in bhakti. Only then he will be able to do it. Otherwise, no. If one wants to realize God as Paramatma, he has to engage in bhakti. Otherwise, he can't do it. And that's the reason we are again and again being advised to take up the process of devotional service. Because by taking up devotional service, all our desires will be fulfilled. The devotee can see the Supreme Lord face to face, but the Jnani or empiric philosopher and the yogi cannot. They cannot be elevated to the positions of the associates of the Lord. Now, the devotee, what does he want? The devotee wants that I shall be able to see God. I shall be able to see God face to face in the spiritual world. I want to be with God. I want to have a loving relationship with Him. And so Krishna fulfills that desire. He brings that devotee, he brings that soul to the spiritual world. If someone wants to not want that. If someone just wants that, I want to merge into the Brahman, I want to become the Brahman, then Krishna allows that too. Krishna gives that. And if one wants to just see that God is the Paramatma in our heart, then Krishna fulfills that also. So whatever is our desire, we should come simply approach Krishna. Because by approaching Krishna, all our desires will be fulfilled. There is no evidence in the scripture stating that by cultivating knowledge or worshipping the impersonal Brahman, one can become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, by executing the yogic principles, can one become an associate of the Supreme Godhead. Impersonal Brahman, being formless, is described as Adrishya because the impersonal effulgence of Brahmajyoti covers the face of the Supreme Lord. So nowhere in the Vedas it is mentioned that we can worship the Brahman and that we can see God face to face. Nowhere is mentioned. So it's not possible that we think that God is light and that we will be able to see the form of God as a person. No, if we worship the Brahman, we will be able to only understand Krishna as the Brahman. And that also, if we want to really go inside the Brahman, then we have to engage in bhakti. If we don't engage in bhakti, we cannot even enter into the Brahman. Because after all, Brahman is Krishna's light. It's his personal effulgence. So, and then what is happening is with this light which is coming from Krishna's body, we are not able to see his form very clearly. Just as from the sun planet, the sunshine is coming. And it's so bright that we cannot see, the sunshine is so much, we cannot see the sun planet. It's the same way. The Brahma Jyoti is so strong, it's covering the face of God. That's the reason the Sri Upanishad, the devotee is praying, my dear God, please remove this blinding light from my vision so I can see your beautiful form. I can see your beautiful face. Some yogis see the four-handed Vishnu sitting within the heart, and therefore in their case also the Supreme Lord is invisible. Only for the devotees is the Lord visible. So the yogi, he is meditating on Lord Vishnu inside the heart. The yogi still does not know that he can have a relationship with God. But the devotee understands that I can be face to face with God. I can have a personal relationship with God. I can personally associate with God in my spiritual form. Each of us have a spiritual form. We can associate with God in that form. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is both invisible and visible, they are different features of the Lord. The Paramatma feature and Brahman feature are invisible, but the Bhagwan feature is visible. In the Vishnu Puran, this fact is very nicely explained. So the form of God, we can actually see it. We can actually have a relationship with God. When we can understand that God is a person, that Krishna, he's a person, and we can have a relationship with Krishna. That is a complete understanding. We cannot have a relationship with light. Neither can we have a relationship with the Paramatma. But with Krishna, we can have a personal relationship. In the Vishnu Puran, this fact is very nicely explained. The universal form of the Lord and the formless Brahman effulgence of the Lord, being invisible, are inferior features. The concept of the universal form is material, and the concept of impersonal Brahman is spiritual. But the highest spiritual understanding is the personality of Godhead. So God has a universal form. The universal form consisting of all the universes, all the planets. That's called the universal form. The lower, the Atal, Patal, Lok. They are the soles of the feet of the universal form. Then the earthly planets are his. They are the waist. And then the higher planets, they are, the upper part of the body of the Lord. So that is the universal form of the Lord. Many people think that that is God, this universal form. It is, because it's a form of God, but it's an inferior form of God. It's a material form of God. And then understanding that God is light, that is spiritual. It is spiritual, but it's not complete understanding of God. Understanding that God is a person, that is complete understanding of God. The Vishnu Puran states, Vishnu Brahma Swarupena Swayam Eva Vyavasthita. Brahman's real feature is Vishnu, or the Supreme Brahman is Vishnu. Swayam Eva, that is his personal feature. So we have to understand it doesn't mean that personality belongs to the body. Personality belongs to the false ego. Our thinking we are the body, that is false ego. But understanding that I am a Jivatma, that is correct ego. Now, this Jivatma has a loving relationship with God. So, God is a person also, completely spiritual. Completely spiritual. That is the highest understanding. That is the perfection of knowledge. The Vishnu Puran is saying that the Vishnu Puran is saying that this Lord Vishnu, he's God. This Brahman is the light coming from Lord Vishnu. Krishna, Vishnu, same, because Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna. The supreme spiritual conception is the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is the highest spiritual knowledge. It's the highest knowledge, understanding that God is a person. This is the perfection of knowledge. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatvana Nivartante Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. That specific abode called Paramam Mama is the place from which once one attains it, one does not return to this miserable conditioned life. Every place, every space, and everything belongs to Vishnu. But where he personally lives is Tadhama Paramam, his supreme abode. One has to make one's destination the supreme abode of the Lord. So everything belongs to Krishna. This material world also belongs to Krishna. But it is a miserable world. Why? Because Krishna personally does not live here. Krishna personally lives in the spiritual world. Tadhama Paramam. So we should also aspire to go to the spiritual world. Go to Golok Vrindavan, or Ayodhya in the spiritual world, or any one of the Vaikuntha planets where Lord Vishnu resides. Because that is the supreme destination. And once we enter into any one of the spiritual planet, we never need to come back to this material world. It's a permanent liberation. That is our perfect situation. This material world also belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. But Krishna does not personally live in this material world. Krishna is expanding in this material world by his Paramatma feature. But personally, where is he living? He lives in Golok Vrindavan. And in all the Vaikuntha planets, he's expanded himself into various Vishnu forms. So that is where we should desire to go, to the spiritual planets, so that we never come again to this temporary material world. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you have any comments?
It is just that from the spiritual, we'll not fall back,
That's right.
right?
That's right. Once we go to the spiritual world, we will never come back to the material world.
Yeah.
So we should have the desire to go there. So the more we hear about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, from the devotees, the more we chant his names, the more we will get this desire to go to the spiritual world. And then Krishna, of course, he makes the arrangements. He makes the arrangements. We do our part and Krishna does his part. We engage in devotional service and Krishna makes sure he brings us back. So we'll stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening in and joining in today. Hari Bol.